Hi everybody, this is Brian at 3dmetaltools.com. Moving on with Shieldman. This will be Shieldman Part 4. This has proven to be a great model so far. I really do. Sorry, I got my light out of the way. I really do like this so far. I did skip ahead a little bit because this build is a good, I would say, 10 to 12 hours, and I guess that there's no need for me to document all 12 hours of that on YouTube. I think that, you know, the main reason for me to put these videos together is to show everybody how I like to use the tools that I have and the tools that we offer, and how I use them. So maybe not necessary to document all 12 hours of this, and I have made some progress. So where we left off, I had just started building the arms. And now, you guys will have to pardon me, by the way, because I have ink all over my hands. My job, actually, I manufacture fountain pens, and so I work with ink a lot. So it's pretty common that there's ink all over my hands after work. Anyways, so here is Shieldman so far. In Part 3, I left off where I was getting started on the arms, and I think that I had maybe one of the right arms almost done. I'd have to go back and check, but so far this guy is awesome. I'm no longer concerned with the splay of these rockets. I'm convinced that they are supposed to be splayed like that. If you remember, that was a real concern of mine, because as this piece was attaching to the back of Shieldman, I was really concerned that I wasn't doing something right, but I am confident that I did everything correctly with that portion. But so far, I think this is a great model. I love the look of his helmet and those hoses on his helmet, his arm on his torso right here. I have been very careful with these hoses because they're difficult to attach, and the connections aren't, you know, they're just a regular old tab. So as I'm handling this guy and as I'm doing assembly, I'm being very careful that I don't bump particularly these hoses down here, because I think that those are the ones that are the most delicate. At least they felt that way. They were the most difficult to put in place because they're buried way back underneath these thrusters in the back. So I was very careful with that, as I almost dropped him. And then here, I love the claw on his arm over here. One thing about sometimes these models, they don't always give you all the photos that I'd love to see on the box. You know, there's nothing inside here, and there's really only just one photo that looks, you know, this photo is not, so there's two photos really, and then just a couple of close-ups. Sorry, this is a bad glare, I apologize. And then just some close-ups. So that's always one thing that's interesting, is that it seems like I see a model that I think is awesome, and then it's kind of neat to build it, because then you see all these little details that you didn't notice on the box as you're putting it together, because they don't show you all those details always. Anyways, but so far that's his torso, head, arms, and I think he looks phenomenal. I really do. This is going to be one of my favorites, I think, as long as I don't screw him up. I did make progress on one leg as well, so one leg is finished at this point, and then I have a foot and ankle that is done, and that's where I left off. So it's time for me to get to work. I think you can see that the only parts that I have left on my knolling boards here are, this is it. So I'm hoping that maybe I can finish up this model entirely in this building session, and maybe Part 4 here of Shieldman will be the final part, and we'll have this model all built. So let's move on, and I'll show you where I am in the instructions. I finished this leg, and then the foot was a sub-assembly from previous steps, so right now I'm moving on to this portion of the leg. So I am on page 11 of 16, and I hope to finish this up tonight. So here we go. Part number 66, setting up my jeweler's block here. I like to use that as my staging area. I have my tweezers that are magnified for grabbing parts. So here's part 66, 66, and and part 67. So I'm going to take part 66 and fold all these little tabs over and then attach it to 67. So this is going to be a perfect task for chain nose pliers, and I'm using the smallest, most narrow tipped chain nose pliers that I have because these are small. So I'm going to bend this down, and I can pretty much feel 90 degrees off the tips of the pliers, and when I feel 90 degrees, that's when I'm stopping. This, even though it's wide, I'm sure that I can get that bend. There we go. So this one is together. Again, I'm pushing and feeling for 90 degrees, and I can feel when that registers 90 degrees off of the tips of the chain nose pliers. Same thing with this one. Good. Now these two are now going to attach to number 67. The engraved side is out. So here is number 67, engraved side out. Good. And let's get these attached. And it looks like I can twist to attach these, and that's going to be no problem at all. This doesn't really want to get exactly, I may have made my bend not quite 90 degrees because it needed a little bit of coaxing with the craft knife to find the right hole, but I got it there. Good. And same thing with this. My bend wasn't really a perfect 90 degrees because the tabs just didn't want to go in without a little bit of pushing, but that's never a big deal. So I have this on here, and now it looks like I'm going to make some bends that are, looks like it would be a 45-degree bend, and then maybe a little bit of a compound bend on. So it looks like this is going to be a 45-degree bend. This might be a little bit another 45-degree, and then just kind of bring those together. Then they hook together in the front. So yeah, it looks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It looks like there's 8 sides, so it's an octagon. I'll keep that in mind as I'm bending these. So I'll get these tabs. I'm going to bend these upwards to fit into the slots. I went a little too far. And now I'm going to bend them back around. In this situation, I want to bend back upon themselves, so an almost 180-degree bend rather than bending the other direction, which would be a little bit more shallow than 90 degrees, and I don't think that would be a good idea to make sure that these stay. So at this point, they're not telling me to fold this down yet, so I'm not going to. So it looks like this is essentially a sub-assembly, and now we move on to this portion, which I think is a knee joint. And I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit here, because I feel like sometimes my hands want to drift towards my body, and then I go off camera accidentally. So pardon my technical adjustment there. That might be better. So now, boy, this is a complex part here. Part number 74. Right here. And it looks like this is going to be a lot of 90-degree bends to get it to this shape. So I'm starting here like this. Okay. Anytime that I'm doing 90-degree bends, always flat nose pliers. Flat nose pliers have the sides are right angles, so I can bend off of these sides to register 90 degrees, or I can also bend off of the tips. There's a right angle here also, so the tips can also give me registration for 90 degrees, which is always handy. So in this case, if I'm looking at all this correctly, this is going to be a 90-degree bend, so I'm going to use the tips to register 90 degrees. And now this is going to be a 90-degree bend, so I'm going to use the sides to register this one. There we go. And now it looks like these can come down. I think that chain nose pliers would be better for this portion right here. I kind of wish I would have thought ahead though, because I could have reversed the order of those bends that I did, and then these tabs would fall into their slots instead of me having to re-bend this out to get it back in. Not a big deal. It all worked out fine, but in hindsight, I should have been looking ahead, and I should have realized that it might have been better for me to reverse the order of those folds. So, and now the other thing that maybe I should have looked in advance is that part number, once 74 is put together, then I'm going to attach part number 75, which there's two of them and they're cones, and they're going to be on the inside of this. So it would have been smart for me to not have made this bend at this point, attach the cones, then make the bend afterwards. That would have been a smarter move. But I think that I can still, I'm going to just bend this out a little bit to give myself access inside here, and then I'm going to form these cones and then attach them. So I kind of did a little bit of a disassembly of this to make sure that I could get access for twisting the tabs on these cones that I'm about to build right now. So here is part 75, and here is part 75, and we're going to make these into cones. And what I'm going to use is our cone forms. So this is the cone form that comes on this rack. It's available at 3dmetaltools.com. There's a reference sheet inside that shows you can reference the shape of the cone and then figure out which cone form is right for you to use. So in this case, let's see which is the right one. So I'm going to take the reference sheet and I'm going to size up all these pieces, or size up this piece. Not really. That's really, really close. So you can see that that's a 55-degree cone. The 61 is not right, and the 47 is not right. So I am going to grab my 55-degree cone. The reference sheet makes me aware of which size or which angle cone I should use. I'll set this aside, and now I have my proper cone form. And I'm going to use this cone form to form this cone. Says the engraved side should be out, so I will do it. I'm going to get this close. Go ahead and insert the tab, and I'm not going to get too concerned about getting this to a dead perfect shape yet, because I know that the pliers are likely going to deform my cone a little bit. You know, it's not really a perfect shape right now, but I can take the cone form afterwards, press this in to shape this into a perfect cone. Now, I believe that I'm going to need to bring this tab up here, fold this down, and there we go. Now, I want to take this tab and fold it down, and I'm going to grab this and press it flat. But I don't want to do this with chain nose pliers, and the reason is the jaws of chain nose pliers are flat. So if I take a curved part and squeeze with chain nose pliers or flat nose pliers, I'm going to flatten the piece, and I don't want to do that. So what tool is perfect for this? Round nose pliers. Round nose pliers have round jaws, and the jaws are just basically big, you know, long cones. So I can grab any curved piece with round nose pliers, like this tab here, and I can press and be confident that what I'm doing is not going to flatten this cone that I just created. Alright, now let's move on to the same thing with this cone. They're identical pieces, so I'm going to take the same procedure. When I'm bending this around the cone form, I'm not being all that too careful yet, because I know that getting this tab to fold inward or to get in place is probably going to mess it up anyways. So I get that tab in there, don't worry too much about the shape, and then I can press it into this cone form nicely to make a perfect cone. Now I'm going to bring this tab up in the same way, fold this down, there we go. That has been folded down. Now I'm going to bring this over, and the same as before, round nose pliers to make the final compression or the final squeeze of this, because I don't want to flatten out that cone that I just made. And by using round nose pliers, I can be confident of that. So there we go. We have our two cones with flattened tops. The tabs certainly need to be bent so that they are perpendicular to the ground, I'm sure. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it now. And now these need to be mounted back onto this piece. And remember, I said I wish I'd looked forward, because it's going to be a little bit difficult to reach in here and give these a twist, but I have just the tool for that anyways, which is bent nose pliers. So these bent nose pliers will allow me to get in here very, very nicely, get a good reach, squeeze, pull, twist. I had one side fall out, got it back in. The bent nose pliers should be useful here as well, so I'm going to pull and twist. And now I need to mount, do the same thing on the other side. I like using a craft knife or an X-Acto knife for tabs that need to be nudged into place, because the tip is sharp and it can kind of dig in and get a good grip, and I can still kind of move things around without it sliding. But I do recommend that you dull your craft knife. The craft knife is most useful for, in my opinion, taking a tab that's a little stubborn and needs to be moved into place. And then also, if you flatten some tabs and you need to disassemble, then this is great for getting, get underneath that tab and wedge in and then bend it out. But you don't need it to be sharp, so I really recommend that you take sandpaper or a file and dull the edge, because you never need to actually cut anything with a craft knife when we're making these models. It's just a tool to get into tight places and to lift up some tabs, so it does not need to be scalpel sharp. Alright, so both of those are in place, and now I think I'm good to bring this bend back where it was. As I said, I should have foreseen that, but I did not. So these tabs are in place. I'm going to bend this around, 180 degree bend. Anytime you're connecting a right angle, I always prefer to make, so for instance, this tab right here, let's see if I can get this tab right here. I have a choice. I can either bend it straight down so it's 90 degrees, or I can fold it back upon itself a full 180 degrees. And the full 180 degrees will always be a better choice, as long as it isn't going to be unattractive and as long as you have the room. And the reason is because, think about it, I illustrated this in a previous video, but if you have, let's say that my hand is this tab and I bend it 90 degrees and that's it. Well, it could feasibly wiggle its way out of the slot, right? But instead, if I do this and bend all the way 180 degrees like this, then it's locked in. It's not going to go anywhere. It can't just rotate itself out of the slot. 90 degree bends can find their way out. It's a very small little picky detail of mine, but anytime that you're creating a 90 degree piece, like this angle right here, and you are connecting them with these tabs, it's always better, in my opinion, to do the fold 180 degrees, fold it back upon itself, than it is to just do a 90 degree fold. So that is my preference. I'll put the cone form back and let's see where we are. So that piece here is good, and I'm going to take the previous sub-assembly that we just finished up, which is here, and it looks like I'm going to attach this is going to attach after it's been folded a little bit, and I'm pretty sure that this is the portion of the model where the knee joint is 90 degrees, so I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have to make a little room by creating this bend first, now inserting these four tabs, because I just don't have clearance any other way. That works well. Good. And I think that I know that I have good pliers to reach deep inside here to twist these four tabs afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this down and set this tab. Actually, I can do it with this piece not even attached. So let's get this tab set here. And I'm sure that I can I do a twist of that? It says that I can do a twist of that, which I think, Yeah, I think a twist is fine. It will be visible, but that's not going to be that unattractive. So now these 4 go on here, and now of course I've got to reach really deep inside here to grab these 4 tabs, and the perfect tool for this is going to be these very long Needlenose pliers. So I can get in here now. Just give it a squeeze and a pull to make sure that I'm pulling it tight. There's 2. 3, 4. There we go. So I have that. I'm at that step right now and looking good. Anytime that I get to a breaking spot, I'd really like to organize my tools. So I take all of my stuff, put it back in their spots. That's just me. I'm really kind of picky about this type of thing. I want every tool to be where I expect it to be. And I've learned over the years of making and model making and my job manufacturing fountain pens that, boy, if a tool is missing, it just drives me insane. So I like to get into those habits. So back to our instructions, since we're organized, and moving on to the leg here. So that's the foot sub-assembly that I had already made, and this was made off camera. I apologize, it was done earlier, and it looks like we are ready to attach these pieces here. So we're basically getting the leg all the way assembled up to the knee. Cool. All right, so I've got, it looks to me like the calf portion of this, the lower calf portion, needs to go inside the other portion, and I can tell that because they have these tabs marked as being bent outwards. So I'm going to go ahead and just give this a little squeeze because it might need a little coaxing to get in there. And so I'm going to bend these 2 tabs out. Anytime that you're bending 2 tabs and you know that they're going to obviously align to 2 identical slots, always do them at the same time. So I'm grabbing my flat nose pliers and I'm bending them at the same time. And the reason is because they're always going to stay in the same plane. So when you go to align this part up to these slots right here, which I think maybe you can see those slots if my camera's focusing, these 2 slots right here, then you can be assured that it's going to line up because it's all done in the same plane. Then this tab gets bent out, and it looks like I am going to, it's going to be much easier. So I have 2 tabs on this side, 1 tab on this side. I have a choice. I can either lock in the 1 and then go find the other 2, or I can lock in the 2 and then go find the other 1. I would much prefer to lock in these 2 first because it's always going to be easier to do your final assembly with 1 tab than what it will trying to fit 2. So if I can get these already aligned and already done and they're in, great. Now all I need to do is search for 1 tab on this side rather than if I did it the other way, I'd be trying to align 2 tabs at once and that could turn into a real pain. So these 2 here, I think it's a good idea for me to just go ahead and get these locked in now. And then, or at least partially. So I have these bent down. I'm going to just roll my round nose pliers to bend them down a little bit more. Bring this together, and I think I can use my craft knife as kind of like a fulcrum here to just kind of wedge this under as I push it in. That's a little stubborn. I might be better off just pushing and bending with my chain nose pliers a little bit. I'm going to bring this up a touch maybe, and then I think it'll slide in a lot easier. There we go. I could just hear it click, so it found the right hole. Now the trick is to get it through and then pull it through. This is where a situation where the small chain nose pliers, so you know there's a small jaw chain nose pliers and long jaw chain nose pliers. This is where the small ones will be the most handy, because obviously with small jaws the more leverage you have. So that tab needed to be pulled, so I'm going to have more pulling force with smaller jaws. The amount of force that I can create by squeezing hard here with these is going to be a lot more than these long jaws. You know, the long jaws could flex a bit more out here and not give you as much clamping pressure as these. So that looks really good. I was able to grab it, pull it firmly, and that leg is looking pretty sharp. These ones back here are also looking good. I just want to make sure that I flatten them out properly, and I did. That is cool. This model, as it keeps coming together, I just keep getting more and more excited because I really love the way this thing is looking so far. Alright, so that leg is there. 73. Part number 73 is going to basically be bent and be put around the front of the calf. So for making a bend like this, I think that flat nose pliers are the best, and they fit this part perfectly also. And then there's 3 tabs on the top of the calf. 1, 2, 3. I've got them all fit really nicely in there. Short chain nose pliers will be preferred here because I can get a really good grip. I can pull, bend this way. I'm not going to make the bend 100% yet because I want to get these set in place also. You notice that when I'm bending from the side with the chain nose pliers, I'm essentially rolling and using the chain nose pliers, using the round outer shape as a fulcrum, so as I roll, I'm pulling the tab tight. So here, roll, and I'm pulling it. And now that I have this folded, I can reach in here and flatten it against the shield piece, or the front, I don't know what I would call this. Shin guard, how's that? Shin guard. Okay. Looking really good. Now we're moving on with piece number 76. It looks like that's going to be the thigh. So here is, here is part 76. And I want to look ahead here because once part 76 is attached here, then later you need to do these bends. So the thigh is not bent as a 90-degree angle, it's actually bent as a curve. So you can see that they've done these scored lines here. I'm probably going to be much better off if I use, I'm thinking that I might want to make these bends to the thigh first before I attach this, because then I'm just going to have this leg hanging off of here while I'm trying to make accurate bends. It'd be much easier if this is not attached, or at least get these bends started is what I'm thinking. So following the instructions here and looking at my instructions, vertical view, the red part needs curved radian, needs curl radian, which makes no sense at all, which is interesting because I remember this was in the previous step when I made the other leg, and the way that they translate it here, oh, it does say, well, no, that's the exact same thing. Hang on a second. Where did I see it? Because I swear that they translated it correctly elsewhere. Here, it does say curl radian. All right, well, I don't know that they translated correctly, but whatever curl radian means, Basically what this means is you don't want to fold these as 90 degrees, you want to fold these as curves. So the best way to do this is going to be using a pin gauge or a cylinder type of gauge. And I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of pre-bend these a little bit. Just get them started, and then it won't be nearly as much work. And if I do need to do any additional bending, the round nose pliers will come in perfect for that. So there we go. Curves and not 90-degree folds. And I'm pretty sure that that's how this is supposed to go. And I'm glad that I did that before. I actually don't like this. Hang on, I'll get this a little bit cleaner. I am glad that I did that before I attached this leg. It would have been more difficult for sure. So the leg gets attached to the thigh, and then it looks like I'm just going to end up bending that once it's in place anyways. That's what I would have done in the previous step. It's just much easier to do that, to kind of pre-bend that before it gets to the shape that it is. Now reaching in here is going to be a little bit tight, but I have the small tipped chain nose pliers, and I'm sure that I can do twists on these. I don't know why I wouldn't. Yes, I can certainly do a twist on these. And then bend this down. That's a cool leg. That is really neat. Okay. And then this B right here is from a sub-assembly that we did earlier with these like jetpacks that are kind of attached to the side. So these attach here on the side of the thigh, and this is going to be a little bit tricky because I'm going to have to reach inside the thigh to make these, but nothing that my bent nose pliers cannot handle, I'm sure. So, whoops, get back in there. So my bent nose pliers can reach in here to get these tabs. I'm going to pull a little bit before I twist. Pull a little bit. Looking good. Now it looks like one of the last steps with this leg is to attach part number 70, which is this, and it appears that part number 70 is just simply the back of the thigh. So I'm going to need to bend these tabs here in the drawing that are inside the thigh, and I'm going to need to bend them out. So a very good tool for this is going to be anything with some long jaws. So these longer chain nose pliers will do great. And again, I want to bend both of them at the same time. That way I know that when I go to mate this with the plate piece, that both tabs will be in the same exact plane. So even if I bend it a little bit too far, it doesn't really matter that much because I'm going to find its way into the slots, and they're both going to be parallel. So as long as I have them both parallel, I can adjust the piece to whatever the bend is that I made. So now, got to fit this place in the back. So those two tabs are in, and the tab, I think the way I want to do this is to, boy, it's really tough because I got to get this tab really far into the, like the crotch of his knee, or the inside of his knee, and then lay these two in. Well, heck, I think I just got all four miraculously. All four are in there somehow. So I'm going to get my finger in there and kind of hold things in place and start bending so that I don't lose this and let these fall out. Push so that it's snug. And that one fell out. So there we go. That's back in, and that one is back in. Good. Ah! And then it just popped out again. Alright, so now the tab that is back here, I think you can actually see it right here, is bent inwards towards there, and I can flatten it really nicely with my very long Needlenose pliers. I can reach all the way in here, just grab that one little tab and flatten it down. Now everything else here, as far as snugging these tabs down, I'm going to use round nose pliers, and the reason is because it's going to occur around the curvature of the thigh. So I can grab this tab and bend it down and squeeze it, fold it down, and because I'm using the round nose pliers, I can squeeze and be confident that I'm not flattening as I'm squeezing. If I flatten, that would not be good for a curve. So the round nose pliers allows me to get a good grip on these while still maintaining the curve on the thigh. Good. That came together nicely. And so now we are here, and we're moving on to this step. Let me fold this and kind of get it out of my way a little bit. We're moving on to this step here, 77, and then that gets put onto a plate for 80, and then that gets mounted to the top of the thigh, and then that will certainly attach to the groin, which looks like that's what part number 79 is going to be, is kind of like the groin piece. So let's go ahead and get part number 77. I'm going to organize my tools first, get some stuff out of the way here. And so I liked my magnetized tweezers to grab pieces like this on my jeweler's block here for now, and then part number 78 is going to go into here. So being careful, it looks like they have arrow marks on this, so these arrow marks need to stay on the outside here, and okay. I'm going to be making, it looks like these are all 90-degree bends. So I'm going to use my flat nose pliers because I can register 90 degrees off the sides. And 90 degrees off of this one. I believe it's 90, yes it is 90 degrees. There. And now this is not going to be 90 degrees, but I'm going to fold it down to meet into its slot as it did. And now chain nose pliers, and again, this tab sticking up right here, I would much rather do a compound 180 degree bend in this direction than I would a 90 degree bend in the other direction. 180 degrees folding against itself is always going to be a better idea than 90 degrees in the opposite direction. It's going to stay much more secure in the long term, in the long haul. So it looks like onto the thigh here, I'm going to bend this piece outward. I'm not going to go very far with that bend because I don't want to commit to it. It looks like it's supposed to be 90 degrees, but I'd rather just get it out of the way first, and then I can have a look and be sure that it should be 90 degrees. Oops, I skipped this step though. I need to attach 77 to 78. So 78 is over in this direction. Looks like I need to bend some tabs to get them facing the right way. This is being a little stubborn on me. That looks right. But before I commit to these, I want to have a look at the instructions once again and just make sure that I didn't do anything wrong here. And actually, I did. I had this aligned the wrong way. So I had these two pieces in this orientation, and now that I look at the instructions, the tabs should have been facing that way on this piece and the slots this way. So I had this backwards. Good thing that I looked before I committed to this. And because of that, it also needs to go the other way around. Alrighty. Good job, Brian. Good job looking ahead. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm congratulating myself. So now I can get this into place properly. Chain nose pliers will give me a very good grip, and I'm sure that this is not going to be visible, so I'm confident that a twist is going to be fine with these tabs, and I am going to do a twist. So, good thing that I looked ahead, because that would have really made me angry at this stage of the game, especially because this piece right here is going to be, I mean, basically these three tabs right here is what's going to hold the weight of the entire leg onto the groin. So if I had messed that up and I had to rebend and reassemble, and then I broke a tab, boy, I could be the entire leg could be dangling, seeing as though I may have messed it up. So with that, looks to me like I'm going to take this portion of the thigh, this piece goes in this way, so these two tabs go in, and then those two tabs come around, and I'm going to compound 180 degree bend on these. Again, 180 degrees in this direction is better than 90 in the other direction. It'll be a more secure hold. And then these, I would like to do a fold and not a twist. I think it'd be much more attractive. I'm going to bend them upwards, and the reason that I'm bending them upwards is because then I can reach them from this side and flatten them against the thigh piece. This right here, probably the easiest way for me to flatten these. I don't have pliers that I can just reach and grab it, so this is a jeweler's anvil. I'm just going to take these pieces and just press them onto the jeweler's anvil. And that flattened those pretty effectively. There's other ways I could do that too. I could take, just like chain nose pliers or any kind of pliers, and just press against them. You know, I'm not using the jaws to squeeze, I'm just using the jaws to press. That would be a good solution too. But alright, there's that leg. Looking good. So let's step back a little bit. I've got a leg here. I've got a leg here, and they look awesome. And I have a torso and arms here. This whole thing is starting to look like Shield Man. Very cool. Alright, I'll set the legs and the torso aside, and looks like I'm moving on to this groin area here. So looks like this is part number 79, and it's telling me that I can form the whole thing. So I will do that, but I want to look ahead in the instructions because we're getting to a critical point here, and I don't want to mess up, because as soon as I make this, as soon as I form this groin piece, it looks like I'm going to be attaching the legs to it. So we are getting to the home stretch for sure. And there are, I like to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces, so it needs to be octagonal. So I will keep that in mind. There is an engraved portion on the front. So, sorry, there's an engraved, this is the engraved portion. That's the back. This is the front. Back, front. Good. So, start making my bends. These two tabs will go in. They're a little bit stubborn, but they did go in. I don't have a perfect octagonal shape, you know what I mean? I don't have all the bends perfect yet, but I think what I'd like to do is get these two tabs locked into place, and then I can do a little reshaping with some flat nose pliers. So that tab is locked down. That tab is locked down. Now, as I said, you can see that this is not a perfect shape yet. Part of it I can probably just take care of with my fingers, though. That looks pretty good, the way that I did it just with my fingers. But if I wanted to get real picky about it, I could get in here with these flat nose pliers and manipulate it a little bit more precise than just my fingers. So hey, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to move on to page 13. We are in the home stretch, everybody. So basically I'm attaching legs now. So wow, it just seems like I've gotten to a major step on this pretty quickly. So it looks as if the straight leg attaches here. I'm just gonna, I don't want to commit to anything yet. I just want to line it up and see how it looks. Make sure I've got the, you know, the groin piece with the right orientation, which I believe I do. The other leg will come in on this plane. So that's really what I'm looking at, and that looks like it's absolutely correct. It doesn't look like I can go wrong with that. So let's go ahead and get these pieces in. And these three bends right here will be pretty critical, because it's these three tabs here that hold the entire weight of the leg onto the groin. So I will want to, I'm going to use bent nose pliers so that I can reach into there here effectively. I will want to get a good grip, nice and tight, and then pull as I twist to make sure that I'm getting these secure. I don't want these legs to be wobbly, or, you know, so grab, good grip, real tight. Same thing here. There. And then that doesn't seem to have any wobble to it at all, which is going to be important for that portion, I'm sure. Now the other leg is going on here. And again, only 3 tabs holding all the weight of these legs. So I would like to get in here with a really good solid grip. Pull. That could have been better, but it's going to be fine. Whew. Looks cool. This is going to be really neat. I can never resist doing this, you know, just kind of getting things into place so I can kind of see what he's going to look like. And so far, this guy's going to be awesome. Alright, so I'm going to set aside the legs because now it appears that I need to work on the stand. So that's neat. I like how I love figures that they put into a pose and then they can have them on a stand so they can have a really cool pose, and then having them on a stand, you know, you don't have to worry about posing them in such a way that you're going to have to make them so that they can stand. Sorry, I'm not, maybe I'm not explaining that really well, but models that are on stands oftentimes can have poses that others cannot, because otherwise you have to engineer it to stand up on its own. So I do like when they have these stands for sure. Doesn't look like there's any designated engraved side or non-engraved side to these. So that looks very accurate to me, and I can go ahead and make this very, very long bend. And for this long bend, I can go at this a couple of ways. These round nose pliers will work perfectly fine for this, even though, because they're round, well, they're actually needle nose pliers, but they're extra long, kind of the same thing as chain nose pliers, but we call them needle nose. They're very long. There's no way to register 90 degrees though. Now with the flat nose pliers, I can register 90 degrees off the sides, so I think that this is going to work really well. I could use these ultra wide flat nose pliers and go from this side, but I'm getting the most surface grip by using these flat nose pliers going in this direction. So I'll bring the camera back in, and it's time to make this bend. And because I'm using flat nose pliers, when I make this bend and it pushes against the side of the pliers, I'm registering 90 degrees perfectly, so I can be assured that that bend that I just made is, I'll see if I can get it to focus better, is exactly 90 degrees, which it is. Same thing on this side. Bend, and then feel the sides of the pliers with the bend, and then you know that you did perfectly 90 degrees. Now, this looks like it may not be perfectly flat. I can also take the flat nose pliers and squeeze here, just to make sure that when because it was my fingers that were really holding onto this side for this bend, so my fingers could have made that a little deformed, but because I can flatten with my flat nose pliers, I can take these pliers and just squeeze, 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 and flatten anything that I may have deformed. There we go. Now these two pieces come together. All three like that. Okay. I'm going to do 180 degree fold on this all the way back on itself. I'm actually going to get it partially there, because there isn't much to keep this piece from folding and bending. You know, I gotta kind of hold this with my finger as I do this to get these into place. So I'm gonna bring these down. Now I can get inside here with long chain nose pliers and press that tab down nice and flat. This one here, I need to bend a little farther in order to get access from this side, and once I get that there, then the extra long chain nose pliers did a good job right there. And now this portion I can also bend, and I'm pretty sure that my Needlenose pliers will have enough reach. Nope, not really. The Needlenose pliers get too thick before I reach in there, so I'm not going to worry too much about getting this tab dead flat 180 degrees back. I'm going to continue with the assembly, get the top piece mounted on here. That'll give it some stability once this is attached, and then once that is attached, then I'm sure that I can get a little bit more mechanical advantage, I guess, or a little bit more leverage onto that other piece. And give me 1 second here. This doesn't look right because, oh yes it is, yes it is. Okay, sorry, I wasn't thinking straight right there for a second. No, this doesn't look right. Okay, because here we have these slots going vertical in this orientation. Oh, their drawing here isn't very good, because this drawing makes this, their drawing makes this side look like it's the longest and the widest side, and this side is shorter. So it's a little deceiving right there if you ask me, but I'm confident that I've got this right. So let's go ahead and attach this to the top of the stand. Twisting will be fine, so I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers. Looking nice. At this point, I feel like I can probably, it has enough stability, I can probably get in here and just flatten that tab a little bit that I was worried about in the center that I couldn't reach before. And I'm not squeezing that hard, because if I get out of hand here, I can just crush this thing, so I don't want to do that for sure. Alright, now we're moving on to part number 83, which is the base plate that also says Piececool on it. Neat. So the best way to go about this is going to be with long flat nose pliers like this. You know what, I might opt instead for my Needlenose pliers on this, because it has enough reach to grab the whole thing. Now I can't register 90 degrees because they're round on the outside, but that's not going to be that difficult for me to just kind of do this and then feel 90 degrees. It's not really perfectly flat, so I can get in here and squeeze this a little bit, eyeball it. It's not 90 degrees. See, that's where flat nose pliers are awesome, is you can always be confident that when you've made your bend with flat nose pliers, if you're registering off the sides, you know that it's 90 degrees. And in this case, it's going to take a little bit of finesse, but I don't have flat nose pliers, at least yet, that are long enough to cover this portion right here. So that looks good. Now let's go to the other side. Do the exact same thing. I'm going to watch carefully for when I reach 90 degrees. And now this is where the ultra wide nose pliers will come in very handy, because I can't use the side of flat nose pliers to do this, because I'm going to fold upon this back portion right there. That back portion here is going to get in the way, correct? So that's where bending from the front is going to be great with these ultra wide flat nose pliers, and then They're also very thick jawed, so it's very easy to feel 90 degrees as soon as you get here, which I just did. Okay, now I want to take a look here and just make sure that everything is straight, because these ultra wide flat nose pliers are also very handy for getting in here, and you can just take anything that's bent or deformed and just give it a squeeze, and that will flatten everything out very nicely. Okay, so we can now attach. That's interesting, because these legs are actually splayed a little bit on the bottom. I think what I'd like to do is just insert these two tabs here, and then insert the tabs on the other side, and just let it do its own natural bending. I don't think that I want to really do any bending. I want it to just find its own spot, like that. Alright, perfect. I'm sure I can twist. Now, these 4 tabs are going to support the weight of the entire model, so I'm going to get a really good grip with my chain nose pliers. I'm not going to do a full 90-degree bend, and the reason is because I think that anytime that you're doing a twist like this on any tab, you don't have to go 90 degrees in order for it to be tight, okay? And the more you bend, I mean, basically, anytime you're building these models, the less you bend, the better. Because if you have to work your way out of a mistake, and you've made a pretty long bend, or you've made a repeated bend over and over and over, there's more chance of breaking something in that situation. So, whatever strength I need from this, I'm going to go ahead and do maybe a 45-degree bend. And if it ever becomes loose over time, or if it ever loosens throughout the rest of the build, I can come in and bend it again and still be confident that I'm not going to break. But if I do a full 90 degrees, then I need to bend some more. I'm going to start getting into the risky range of possibly breaking one. So usually my advice is to do the minimum twist that you need to get the strength that you need. So now we are attaching legs to the stand. We're down here, and now these legs, you know, this portion is going onto the stand. It's looking like starting to look like the picture, starting to look like a complete model. These 2 tabs want to be stubborn. I think I need to take these and bend them outward a little bit. So these 2 right here. See, that's the leg is in the way. It's not going to be easy. So let me do one at a time. And then now that I get them bent somewhat, I can come in here with these flat nose pliers and just squeeze them so that they're both bent to the same plane. And now let's get this back in here. And get the back. Good. All right. Those are in place. So now, do I twist these or do I not? It's telling me to twist, but I think that's going to be unattractive. There's going to be these twists right at its butt. I'm going to take these rear ones and fold them 180 back on themselves, or at least it's going to be close to 180. It's a little bit tricky though. I think I want to do the front ones first. And the front ones, this is tough. I gotta get in here with these Needlenose and bend that one up. This needle nose, bend that one up, and these two on the back. If I can get my needle nose in there, I would like to use them, and I can. Good, so bend that up. Now that's already kind of locked in, so I can get my craft knife and bend that one up. And now bring this tab all the way up. And the reason that I wanted to fold these instead of twisting them is that I really think it's going to look more attractive, and I can reach in all the way from here and press them down flat and tight. And the same on this side. Nice, flat and tight. Haha! This guy's looking awesome. His leg wants to touch the stand, and in the photo though, it looks like his leg does get very close to touching the stand anyways. So there we go. Alright, let me get a broader view here. I'm going to organize, put tools away. And move on. So, looks like we now have these pieces, which are, they look like they're kind of like thigh armor. This piece will go on here. It looks like there's a tension getter right there to make sure you're doing this correct. And then we are in the home stretch for sure. So let's go here to part 84. And we're doing this twice. So there's two 84s, then there's an 85 and an 86, and I think it's going to be wise for me to not take 85 out of my knolling board yet. I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to mix up 85 and 86. They're obviously distinct parts, so I'm going to leave those. I'm going to grab the piece that I need and just leave the others there so that they remain organized, and I know that that's an 85 and that's an 86, but that one's the wrong spot. So, okay. It's telling me, the instructions are telling me to make this bend before I attach these, but I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to attach these and then make the bend. I think it would be easier. So all of these tabs need to be flattened on 85, and that's where flat nose pliers will be awesome. Actually, I'm going to use the flat nose pliers here on this side, and I'm using the sides to register 90 degrees. This way, use the sides to register 90 degrees. And now, these individual pieces, is this too wide? It's not. It's actually perfect. So my ultra wide flat nose pliers will do this all in one shot. All three of these right here can go, boom. There we go. Very nice. Okay, so 85 will go onto the right side here. It's telling me that I can twist these tabs. So my chain nose pliers. There we go. Now, I'm going to move on to 86, and this is going to be identical. So I already have my flat nose, my ultra wide flat nose, so I can use my normal flat nose for this piece, grab it here, and then the ultra wide can do all three of these in one shot, just the same as before. There we go. Now 86 will go into these three tabs, and notice that all of these tabs are fitting perfectly and don't need nudged into place. The reason is I'm using flat nose pliers, and each bend is being registered against the face for a perfect 90-degree angle. So instead of using chain nose pliers or tweezers or anything that doesn't have flat sides, by using flat nose pliers, I don't have to even really mess around to get these tabs to all fit exactly where they're supposed to go, because they're bent perfectly thanks to the flat nose pliers. So that's good, and I need to make a duplicate part just like this. So I'm going to get number 85, same procedure. Then the ultra wide gets all three. Because I'm pressing and registering 90 degrees, that means that when I get to this step, they should, same as before, all just fall into the perfect place without really needing any adjustment. There's one, there's two, and there's three. Just fell right into place perfectly, thanks to flat nose pliers. Twist. Twist, twist. Part number 86, same procedure. Flatten, register 90 degrees. Flatten and register 90 degrees. Ultra wide, all three in one shot. Perfect 90 degrees, which means that when I bring this to fit to the part, 1, 2, 3, and it just falls into place perfectly. It's very, very satisfying when that happens. And it just happened 4 times in a row. Haha. Now, it wanted me to do this bend beforehand, but I didn't want to. So this bend I think I can do with my fingers primarily, and then get a feel for where this needs to go after I've made this bend. But I'm going to feel better using my chain nose pliers, so I can get right up into the tip of that area and make the bend accurate. Good. I don't usually end up doing very much bending with my fingers at all. I'm a tool junkie. I have the tools that will make this perfect. Chain nose pliers are more accurate than my fingers. And there's a lot of people that love to build these models with their fingers, but there's not too many situations where I feel that way. So now we're going to attach these, I guess they're like thigh armor pieces, to these tabs that were bent out, and it looks like they only attach on the top. It doesn't look like they attach on the bottom at all. So back to my legs here, this part needs to be bent out, and I'm glad that I didn't make this one bend all the way, because I can get a feel for how this is supposed to be and then decide how far to bend it. And then in this case I'm going to bring it down a little bit more. Good. It's telling me to twist, but I do not want to twist because I think that's going to be a very unattractive portion to twist. So I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers and bend in that direction, And then I'm going to fold it down flat. Sorry, I apologize. I need to get a really tight look at what I'm doing here. So if my face gets in the way of the camera, I apologize in advance. This is a little bit more, I need to see a little closer for this portion. Alright, so that armor piece is attached. It looks like it just lays there flat on its own. And then these triangular pieces up here on the top get folded down. So that's going to be easier with my needle nose. Now it's going to be complicated in this area because I don't have a good spot to reach. That's good. All right. And then this, I'll bend down a little bit more. And then this thigh armor gets attached. And I'm going to do the same thing. I don't want to do a twist here because I think it's going to be a spot that's very, very visible. And if I can avoid doing twists on portions that will be really, I don't know, painfully obvious on the model, I prefer folds anytime that I can. Just because I feel that they are a little bit more attractive. Now the same deal, the triangular pieces need to be bent down. So this, my little flat nose pliers will work perfect for that. And then my needle nose will reach in here nicely for the other side, I think. Hang on. Yeah, that's pretty good. Alright. Coming together. So now, these are attached, and I'm going to be attaching this piece to the top of the groin area, and it's giving me an exclamation point here, so you want to pay special attention. That's the back. That's the front. It looks to me like this part is completely symmetric, so it wouldn't really matter whether it's face up or face down, or if this is the top or that's the back. It's just critical that the back, it looks like it's critical that the back has this tab, and then the front has nothing. So here it is. There's that tab. And it looks like all of these are going to be bent upwards. And I'm assuming they should all be 90 degrees. It looks to me like it should be. So I'm feeling confident with moving forward with this. The ultra wide flat nose pliers are going to be actually just the perfect length. So there we go. And I'm going to use a jeweler's block for this portion here, because what I can do on all of these bends is grab this piece with the ultra wide flat nose pliers, and then when I push like this, I can feel 90 degrees against the jeweler's block. So same thing with this. I'm going to start here, bring it up, and as I feel 90 degrees, I know that I'm dead perfect with that. These pliers are a little bit too thick for these smaller ones, so I'll grab a different pair in a second, but I might as well get all these done. This here, and again, I'm just feeling 90 degrees. The front. The reason that I'm using the jeweler's block on this is because if I were doing this with my fingers, I could just bend the shape of this right here. You know, it's thin. If it were a big wide piece and I had room to hold this better, I would. But the jeweler's block gives me a perfect surface to work against. And so now I've got a smaller set of flat nose pliers for these pieces. And these pieces I may not, I mean, I like to use the jeweler's block because I know darn well that I'm getting it perfectly flat. But I don't have to use a jeweler's block on this right now, because when I am 90 degrees, I'm going to see it match the other bends that I already made here. But I feel better doing it this way because I know it's rock solid. Looking good. So now this is going to mount onto the legs, or I should say the groin area. Whoa, okay, now it looks like I didn't shape this groin area exactly the way that it's supposed to be. You can see that, maybe you can see, once I get these tabs into place, I'm off up here by a good 1/8 of an inch. So I think that my bends in this area needed to be more compact, which I'm doing right now. I'm just kind of bending that forward a little bit. And let me see where I am here, because there's going to be a lot more manipulating of these. So, and that also spreads these legs apart so that they're not touching the stand. Now we're in the ballpark. That's looking better. And that's probably worthy of a discussion. Had I been thinking ahead when I was building that groin piece, when I was building this groin piece and getting that exact hexagonal shape, because in the end it wasn't hexagonal. I'm sorry, hexagonal, octagonal. In the end it wasn't octagonal at all, actually. It's very far from it. But had I been thinking ahead, and I should have, when it was time to build that piece, which is this, when it was time to build this in this step right here, I could have looked ahead and known, all right, I know for sure that this is going to mate with a part in the future, right? Well, I could have looked ahead and I could have seen that it does mate with the part that I'm working on right now. And then, so it would have mated with part 87. And then that would have told me exactly the shape to make it. Now, there wasn't any harm in the way I did it here, but perhaps it would have been nice if I was better with thinking ahead on that one. So, looks like I can twist on all of these, and I agree, that's a good, I will twist these. Small, my little fine tipped chain nose pliers, because it's a little bit close quarters in that top one. Now that part is on. Now we're on to part number 88. Which I should probably look ahead and see what part 88 is going to be. 88 is going to be kind of like the top of the waist. So this is it right here. We are on part 88, and there's 101, well, at least the numbered parts. So 88 out of 101 were just about 90% there. How's that? Almost. So all of these I think I can very confidently go ahead and bend, because the exact angle of the bend is going to be determined by each side that it mates with. The engraved side is up, so I can go ahead and kind of make these bends. I think I'd rather use some wider flat nose pliers here though. That is going to fit into that slot, so I want to come back to it in a little bit, I think. Okay, and now these two pieces will bend together, so I'll get that tab into that slot. Good. Chain nose pliers, bend it back around itself for a 180-degree bend. Good. Back upon itself for a 180-degree bend. And then these tabs need to come together, and I'm gonna probably need to bend that tab up a little bit. Same with that. Good and good. Bend it back and flatten with the chain nose pliers. That looks nice. Now, we're moving on to part number 89. Organize my tools. So, number 89. Looks like it's all pretty straightforward. Flat nose pliers. I am next to positive. Yes, this is going to be. Sorry, I should show you the instructions as well. I'm on this part right now. So this is going to be a 90-degree bend. So I'm using the flat nose pliers and registering against the side of the flat nose pliers. And then I'm going to get a wider set of flat nose pliers to create this bend. Good. And the same with this bend. Good. Now part number 90. Looks to me like this needs to be a right angle, and then we'll make that bend. So, right angle, right angle. And now I'm going to, here's another example where I will use the jeweler's block. I don't want, see, there's very little surface area for me to press against with my finger right here, and by not having much surface area, I'm probably just going to bend this into a curve. Like the portion that's in the jaws, of course, will stay flat, but this very narrow portion out there will probably curve more than bend. So if I push it on the jeweler's block as I'm doing this bend, it keeps that thin portion very, very flat. And if I ever mess it up, I can come in here with flat nose pliers and just squeeze to flatten those. But the jeweler's block is handy for that type of situation for sure. This goes on here now. And sorry, I just went off camera, but I just got those tabs twisted. Now we're going to make 3 cylinders. And so with these cylinders, little tiny parts, so I'm going to use, well, not that small, but small enough that I don't want to drag them across my bench. I used my magnetized tweezers to grab them and put them here on the jeweler's block. And now I can size these up to my references for cylinders just the same way that I do domes, and it looks to me like this needs to be about 100 or maybe 75 thousandths. I'm going to start bending these with a 100 size cylinder form. And actually these might be Actually, the 100 is a little bit too small. Might be perfect for these step mandrels back here. So let's take a look at these. And I bent this too far, so I'm going to get my, I bent it too acute, I should say. I'm going to get my round nose pliers and open it up, because I kind of messed that up. And then get in here with the step mandrel. And that's a pretty good size for this. So now that I have this on the step mandrel, I can roll it on the jeweler's block. And by rolling on the jeweler's block, I know darn well that I just made pretty much a perfect cylinder. That's very dead on. So the step mandrel was the easiest tool for this. I'm going to use it again. So the third step. Nice. Good cylinder. Good cylinder. I kind of bent these tabs though on the base of that portion of the cylinder. I'm going to straighten them out with my round nose pliers. I'm using round nose pliers because otherwise I would be flattening. I don't want to flatten that. Let me try this again, but I'm going to keep the tabs away from being bent. I should have gone around this way so that those tabs would lay flat. Much better. Okay, now these three will get attached to this portion. Some kind of, what, thruster pack? He has thrusters on his rear end apparently. I'm going to assemble this so that the seam is going to be on the bottom, and that way the seam won't be visible because it'll be hidden by the next thruster that I'm going to install next to it. Twist and twist. Now this next cylinder will come in, and again I'm going to aim the seam towards the other one so that it's not visible, or at least not as visible. Twist and twist. Last cylinder. Put the seam upwards so that it's hidden by the others. Twist, twist. Looking really good, but I want to bend this. I want to form this one a little bit more precise. So I'm using round nose pliers. And there we go. Those are three awfully good looking precise cylinders made with the step mandrels and round nose pliers. So now that gets mounted onto this waist piece, or this piece on his waist, I guess I should say. It's a good fit. I'm sure I can twist with these, and I can. I'm going to use the Needlenose pliers because I'll have a very long reach. Very cool looking. Okay, and now it looks like his torso now gets attached to this piece. Very nice. But before doing this, I'll need to take all of these tabs and bend them down. You'll notice I'm being very careful with these hoses, because those hoses are, I knew from the very beginning they were delicate. And remember that I even contemplated putting them on very, very last at the end of the build, because I could see myself knocking into those on accident. Okay, this is going to be a really good spot for locking forceps. Here are locking forceps. Basically, they're tools that are often used by fly fishers, but they have locks, so that when you twist these in, they lock into place. What I need to do, I need to take 1, 2, 3, 4 tabs and put them into 4 slots. Now, what oftentimes happens is when you are doing this, you'll put in the first tab, then you'll put in the second tab, and by the time you get to the third tab, the first tab falls out. And then you start chasing your tail. You put in the fourth and the second falls out. You put in the first and then the third falls out. So I'm going to take this and get at least 1 tab in, if not 2. And then I'm going to grab my locking forceps, and because they're very, very light tools, you can just grab a hold of this tab, lock it, and then that's going nowhere. That tab is not going to fall out. This is another set. I'm going to grab the second tab and lock that in there because it's not going to go anywhere. Because I'm using them like this, I don't have to commit to a bend before I figure out whether or not 3 and 4 are going to fit nicely. And they're also very lightweight, so they can hang off the model while I'm doing this. And there we go. I think I can definitely see that 1 is in, and okay, the other is definitely in too. So now this is going to be tricky. I lost it, but I'm going to get it back in here. Alright, well, here's what I'm going to do. Because I know darn well that all this works, I'm going to take the locking forceps and go ahead and make the twist. And that one just fell off. Whoops. Actually, I think that what I did on accident was I might have broken that tab. Let me get a closer look here. But it didn't break, but it wasn't pretty, and I should have done the twist with pliers rather than the forceps, because the forceps are kind of a crude tool, and they're also serrated, and the serrations can certainly cut into the metal, and that may have been what kind of messed up that tab. So I probably should have waited until I had my chain nose pliers to twist those tabs like I am now on the other 2. There's 1 and there's 2. Sorry if the view wasn't very good on camera, but that was a difficult portion of this, and I really had to kind of disregard your angle and think more about mine and getting a good view from my standpoint. So I apologize if that wasn't very visible, but essentially what I was doing throughout the entire thing is I was using locking forceps to put those 4 tabs into place so I could lock in 2 while I worked with the other, and that way I can test my fit before committing to a twist. Okay, we are definitely getting there. I am now at this step, 91, 92. So here is part number 91. Here's part number 92. And part number 92 looks like it has, each little fold here is going to be, it looks like it's a multiple bend. It looks like there's 2 angles to this bend, just like the parts that we did at the very beginning that are on his wrists. So here's what I'm going to do. I know that all 4 of these tabs need to line up to these 4 slots, right? So I'm going to go ahead and make the bends just on the portions that have tabs because I want to test the fit. One bend, two bends, and now let me see if the bend that I just created is accurate. Not quite, but I'm going to make a little adjustment with my craft knife here to get that into place, and there I can see exactly how these need to line up. I'm going to do the same thing with the other two that have tabs attached, and again I'm going to do a test fit, because what this is doing is this is telling me exactly, it's giving me a model to bend all the other ones next to. So these four should fit in nicely. 1, 2, 3, and this will take a little coaxing. Oop, the first one fell out. Okay, so now I have these four in the right spot, so I can remove this piece and then just make sure that I don't mess with those four, and I can use those four now to create the other bends and make them identical to this, because then if I use those that I just created as a model for the others, then I know that they're all going to be accurate and they're all going to look uniform and nice. So by using those four as models for all the others, I can feel confident that I made all these bends at the right angle, because they were, the four that I know are right, were of course pre-fitted. Little nudge here, and there we go. I'm pretty sure that I can do a twist on these, and I will. Okay, now part number 93. 93, which means we're, the part count is 101, and part number 101 is the shield. So that means that we're getting very, very close to being complete here. This is going to have, sorry, let me bring these up here. So I'm doing this right here. Flat nose pliers will work wonderfully for this. It doesn't look like it should be a 90-degree bend, so I'm just going to bend and get it close. Use the part that's mating to as a model to see how far these should be bent. And actually, maybe they are supposed to be 90 degrees. Let me try it, and then if it fits, then I know. And if not, I can bring it back just a touch. Yeah, 90 degrees. So I will finish out this little tip here. This little tip. Get this into place. small nudge. There we go. I'm sure this is a twist. It is a twist. Now, part number 94 is this. Let's see. It looks like it's all 90-degree bends, thank goodness, because these are complex. Little teeny tiny wedge here that I need to do that. Flat nose pliers makes that very easy. Good. And now these, I'm sure I'll have to do individually. 1, 2. Okay. This is going to mount up here. It's telling me that I should flatten these, and I agree, because I'm pretty sure that this might need to lay down flat later, I think. 1 second. See, I'm in the home stretch, and I'm so tempted to just, tear through the rest of this, but I gotta resist that temptation to make sure that I'm doing this right. I would be so angry if I got to a final step and just realized that, well, I just messed it up completely. So once these goes on, this gets attached here, that goes on here, and then that's going to be mounted onto the front. So, whoops. Oh, the front there. Sorry. I'm doing too much off camera. I apologize, everybody. I'm just trying to figure out how this is going to attach here later. And oh, does this all get folded? No, it's those. Okay, I'm good. I don't know why they're telling me to fold those tabs, because I'm not finding that it's going to be necessary. And if I'm wrong, I can go back and probably rework them if I needed to. Besides, there's lots of other there's lots of other twisted tabs on the same plane back here on the back, so it only makes sense to me that these could also be folded. Okay, now part 95. Difficult piece to pick up, so I'm grabbing my tweezers that are magnetized. Flat nose pliers for this tiny bend, and the same for this tiny bend. And then my fine-tipped chain nose pliers to get all of these at 90 degrees. Attached to this. I'm confident that this is a twist just like the other. Whoops. That's a cool looking piece. So now I'm going to organize a little bit, get tools back in their place. Even though I'm in the home stretch and I really want to just like tear through this and get to the very end, I'm going to force myself to slow down and be patient, because I could make a very stupid mistake right now if I'm not careful. So I need part number 96 now, which is right here. And it looks like it's going to take a slight bend that's not clear how it's attached. It says that I can twist, but I want to look ahead because I know it's going to mount onto here, so that means that this just needs to be bent in that direction. So it looks to me like that can be 90 degrees, and then this fold could very well be made later, is what I'm thinking. So this tab here, I'm going to fold it back on itself 180 degrees. This one here is going to be nearly impossible to reach with pliers, so I'm going to wedge my craft knife in here, bend it around so I can get access with chain nose pliers, then bend it back and fold it kind of onto itself. I'll deal with that bend later. Now the same thing with part number 97 on the other side. And the same thing with the craft knife, because I can't get pliers in here. I'm going to just bend it a little bit to where I can get access with pliers, then grab it and bring it around. And I'm not going to do this small bend yet, because I would rather make sure that it fits onto, I guess you could call this a cod piece, whatever. I think that might be accurate. Oh, actually, you know what? It looks like part number 98 and 99 is going to define this. So part number 98 and 99 is going to be bent forward a little bit like this, engraved side out, and 99, I'm sure that these are all 90-degree angles, so flat nose pliers 90, flat nose pliers 90, and flat nose pliers 90. This gets mounted onto here. I do feel like I'm moving a little bit fast, so I do want to stop. Like I said, I'm so anxious to get this to the final stage, and I am at the final stage. So I want to just make sure I did this right. Everything is good there. Resist temptation to fly through this right now. Twist, twist, and then this gets mounted onto the top here after I make these bends. It's a difficult fit though. I hope my head isn't in the way too much, but I gotta get some good visibility here. Okay, I got these two sides, and I feel confident enough to go ahead and just lock these into place. So I'm gonna take this one, fold it back, take this one and fold it back, same thing, fold back, fold back, and that's also a good looking piece. Very nice. So part number 100 is, it looks like it's kind of like a face plate for this shield. And then here's part number 101. So these are the very last two parts to this model. We are almost there, my friends. I'm very excited. So the way that this is made, obviously I need to go ahead and kind of make this pre-bend here. I do not want these tabs to be visible on the outside of the shield. I think that would be a really big mistake. So I would like to take these tabs and bend them downwards, and that way when I put the shield together here and make this very, very mild bend, and I am going to do this with my hands. I don't know that I have any tooling or forms or anything that would really do this right, because it's such a wide angle and such a huge piece. You know, obviously, sure, I could probably take a cone form like this, or maybe a very, very shallow cone form like this 10-degree cone form. Sorry, this is 20 degrees. You know, maybe this would be helpful, actually. I think I may end up... Yes. Very nice. I thought that the cone form might be a little bit confining because it's not nearly as wide, you know, but that actually worked really, really well for that shield. So... now I want to get this as tight as possible, so I'm using chain nose pliers and I'm rolling as I'm bending. And because I'm rolling, I'm using the fulcrum, I'm using the side of the pliers as a fulcrum to pull it tight, pull that tab tight. And there we go. That turned out well. And then of course the same cone form is going to work excellent for, is going to work excellent for this piece that is mounted on top of the shield. So very nice. All these tabs need to be bent downward to be perpendicular to the ground so they can fit into the larger shield, and then they get fitted into the shield. A little nudge to get that into place, and a twist on all of these, and I am definitely going to pull these tight because I want each portion, each quadrant of this circle to lay very flat against the shield. So pulling these tabs really tight and pinching them is going to be a good idea. And there we go. That looks really good. Okay, here we are. Let's pan out a little bit and get a look for what we're doing now. So essentially, every part is assembled. Well, every part is put together. We just need to join them now. So essentially, the top portion of the body is going to go through those tabs. That's going to be complicated. So let me zoom in here. These 3 tabs, 1, 2, 3, are going to go up through here into the top of the waist. That's going to be complicated, and that might be a good spot for my locking forceps, but I'm not sure yet. Let's get into this and see what we got. And since I'm working with larger pieces now, I might as well back up my camera a little bit. But there's only going to be 3 spots here I have to worry about, and I got one in. There's one. I think I got 2. And then the third one will probably come together very easily. So just by kind of visually doing this and seeing that these tabs came out just fine, I think I feel confident enough that I can go with one at a time and lock it in. It's telling me to twist, and you know what? I don't want to twist. I don't think that's going to look very attractive. At least on these sides, I want to flatten. So I'm going to flatten this one down, and the back I might twist, because the back is going to give me very difficult access. Looks like the back tab is in right now. I would rather get this side tab first. And pardon me everybody, if my head gets in the way, this might be difficult to see because I got to get my eyes kind of deep into this so I can see what I'm doing, and it may not lend itself for a good view on the camera. Well, the back tab is through. So there's a part of me, I don't really want to lock it into place though, because if I lock it into place, then it's going to limit my ability to fit the third one here on the side, which is not wanting to show itself no matter what I do. I just don't have a good view. This is very difficult. I just wish that I could see. I can't see the tab and the slot. It might be worthwhile for me . I think I just felt it. Yes, I did. Now don't lose it, Brian. And the back is in place too. I got lucky on that one, I think. Okay, fold this down. And now the back tab, I am going to fold it too. And I believe that I can just kind of get some pressure in here with the pliers and pull this down. Ooh, good. I lucked out, I think, with that one. It does illustrate, though, you know, this is another example where I feel that my using flat nose pliers had a very positive effect on the outcome of this, because remember, okay, when I built this portion right here, this waist piece, I used flat nose pliers to register all those tabs perfectly 90 degrees. And so this one fit great, this one fit great, this was just a little bit off. If I didn't use flat nose pliers and made those perfectly 90 degrees, I might have been all over the place trying to find those 3 spots. But it came together actually a little bit easier than what I thought it would. And holy smokes, this guy looks really cool. We're almost there. So let's have a look at him right now. And all that's left to do is attach his, I guess I would call it a cod piece, and attach his shield. So, since he is Shield Man, I will leave the shield as the final piece, I think. And then we'll get this cod piece, I guess, attached. This is going to be very difficult to access too. Getting some pliers in sight here is not going to be easy. It's a more narrow fit than what I had originally bent this into shape. So I'm going to bring this in a little bit and refit this and see where I am. Okay, shoot, I had those 4 in, and then I thought that it would hold, I thought that it would stay in place on its own, but it didn't. But I have them test fitted, and I know that it's going to work. So I'm going to turn this upside down, get 2 of these in here. Holy smokes, this is going to be so difficult to access. Alright, so Needlenose pliers. So my little, very, very long, limited access Needlenose pliers. I need to get them in here. There we go. I got 1. Now these 2 are in place. And I think I got it. The cod piece is now in place. Alright, let me take a little step back for a second here. Okay. Whew. So this is Shield Man. Almost finished. All I got to do now, maybe the easiest part, is attach the shield. And it looks like it's only going to attach on 2 spots. It's telling me to twist. I don't want to twist. I don't think that's going to look good on the top of his shield. So I'm going to fold these using the chain nose pliers as a fulcrum. Alright, you know what? I think that that is Shield Man complete. I know that you've got an overhead view right now. I'll probably move to a different view and maybe even put it on my spinner. But this guy is awesome. I'm so happy with this build. There were definitely some challenges with it. It's not a beginner model, but I'm convinced that anyone with the right tools and the right amount of patience can get through these more difficult oh geez, what just happened there? Codpiece fell off. Alright, I didn't have these tabs in there the way that I should have. So let's... Hey, I'm not done. I need to find a better way to grab these tabs for the codpiece. I keep saying codpiece. I have no idea if this is a codpiece, but I'm just going to keep calling it a codpiece anyways. Okay, the tabs are in place, and now I'm wondering if maybe my bent nose can get in here, because this is tight. If I could bend that up, I could get access to it here as well, but here, I think I can do this. I got it. And now I just gotta find a way to twist without messing up the model. Alright, I got one of them twisted. Coming in for number 2, yeah, the bent nose pliers. The bent nose pliers were perfect for this, and I should have been using it from the get-go. I should have been using them from the get-go. So I thought that I had this codpiece on here nice and secure, but I really didn't. I thought that those Needlenose pliers made the bends, and it felt like it made the bends that I wanted it to, but it really didn't. Now I'm fixing it with the bent nose pliers, and I'm going to go back carefully and look and make sure. And yes, they are all properly twisted. Okay, so take 2. This is Shield Man with his codpiece properly attached. Again, this was a great model. I love this guy. And those of you who are wondering, remember that scratch? I did get a Red Sharpie marker, and I'll see if I can show you this spot. There was one scratch that I made right here, and I'm lucky because first of all, the Sharpie marker did hide it pretty well, and it's also hidden underneath this hose and his shoulder piece. So this is Shield Man complete. I'm going to go ahead and get my spinner and put him on the spinner so that you can get a view from the side. Obviously, viewing this only from the top, from this camera angle, isn't always the greatest, but this is a great model. Thank you everybody for watching. I definitely appreciate it. I'll be doing more and more videos like this. This one is definitely a long build. Whether or not I'm going to document really long builds like this again is yet to be determined, because heck, I think, oh geez, we're already past 2 hours just on this video. So this is Shield Man, and here is a spinner view. Thank you for watching.